To this meeting of the Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the V&T Railway. We're going to call this meeting to order. It is 9:04. We're official. Let's go ahead and start with a roll call and determination of quorum. Tamara, can you help us with that?
Chair Peterson, Vice Chair Mitchell,
I'm here.
Secretary Hicks,
Here.
Treasurer Cruz, Commissioner
Right
Schmidt. Okay, Commissioner Schmitter,
Present.
the quorum's present.
Very good. Thank you kindly. We'll move to item 3 on the agenda, which is a Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to join me, we'll do that now. Thank you. We'll move on to public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that's relevant to or within the authority of this body. Just as a note, the V&T Railway Commission will provide at least 2 public comment periods in compliance with the minimum requirements of the open meeting law prior to adjournment. Public comment will be taken at the beginning of the agenda before any action is taken, and again at the end before adjournment. No action may be taken on the matters raised under public comment unless the item has been specifically included in the agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. The chair may call for or allow additional individual item public comment at the time of the body's consideration of the item, when the comment will be provided from a person who's directly involved in the item, such as V&T staff or an applicant, or 2, involves any persons or entities due process appeal or hearing rights, and on and on and on. Comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person or topic at the discretion of the chair in order to facilitate the meeting. Do we have any public comment at this time? Please come on up. And you're an old hand at this, but as you know, state your name for the record.
Yeah, I'm an old hand, but I don't know. Denny French, Carson City, thank you very much. Also, thank you very much for reading the terminations of the 3 minutes and explanation. Thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing more about AB 32 and its progress, or any changes that have been made to its initial, statement. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. Is there additional public comment here in the room? Seeing none, do we have any public comment online?
There's no comment online.
Thank you kindly. And with that, we will move on to item number 5 for possible action. This is approval of minutes of our January 22nd, 2025 meeting. Does the board have any comments or updates to the minutes from our January 22nd meeting? Hearing none, is there any public comment about this item regarding the minutes from our last meeting? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes of January 22nd, 2025.
Thank you. A motion by Stephanie. Do we have a second?
Michelle Schmitter, for the record, I second the motion.
Fantastic. Any final discussion on this item? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Gotcha. Thank you, Leah. The motion passes unanimously. Move on to item number 6, which is for presentation only. This is a presentation regarding the potential acquisition by Story County of certain undeveloped land owned by the V&T Commission, designated as assessors parcel numbers 02-063-22 and 02-063-24. We have with us Lisa Maciel from Story County. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Lisa Maciel for the record. I'm the Story County Administration Officer, and we are here today with me. I brought Sarah Sturtz, our grants manager, and also Kathy Canfield, our planning director, should there be any additional questions that I can't answer. And more history, as I'm kind of limited on this, but Story County is currently looking for a property to basically build a outdoor recreation area, such as a park. The Gold Hill Depot, we have kind of looked at. Virginia City is very limited in different space that we can have, basically because of terrain or who owns the property or just location, different issues. And so there's two properties that this commission has that are located at the depot. It is parcel number 02-063-22 and 02-063-24. Both of them are 0.13 acres. And where this property is situated would give an opportunity for not only the train to have different events, but it would also permit different recreational opportunities for residents of Gold Hill. Right now, the only two parks that are near this area are approximately either 2 miles north or 2 miles south in Silver City or in Virginia City at Miners Park. One of the reasons why Virginia City, Story County, is looking for another piece of property is for basically a conversion that was done on part of the property at Miners Park in Virginia City. At one point in time, the county had received a grant for some playground equipment at Miners Park. And at that point in time, it wasn't realized that there was actually covenants that were placed on the property that required all that space to be used as an outdoor recreation area. When Community Chest was built on this little piece of the property, they built a library and a library and a community center. And Story County is currently in the process of looking to deed that property to Community Chest so that they can be afforded additional opportunities for grants. But in the meantime, Story County has to look for another property to have this outdoor recreational area. So Story County decided to open this conversation for these two pieces of property and see how this commission felt about possibly Story County purchasing this property or using some of the rail funds for this, because there's very specific uses for that funding. And if this commission is interested and willing to entertain that, fair market value would be determined by a Yellow Book appraisal. And then we would also reach out to additional property owners in that area to see if they would also be interested in allowing Story County to purchase that property as well. There's a lot of opportunity here for this area, outdoor events, recreation for the locals. I know that people and I've been one of them, I have taken the train from Virginia City to Gold Hill for lunch or dinner, and then only to realize that the facility was closed and there's no restrooms, there's nothing there. There are a lot of accidents at Griner's Bend, so this will actually give people an opportunity to relax or wait until an accident is cleared up, or just stop and learn about some of the history that we could, potentially put some plaques down there, different monuments. I know different things have been talked about, but it'd be a good opportunity for some educational events for the community, and then just regular community events in general, like concerts like Silver City actually has at their little park area. So we would just like this opportunity to open it up for discussion. And the Story County Comptroller actually sent me a message this morning. She apologized she couldn't be here, but she asked that if this purchase is expected to be funded by the rail fund, she requested that we discuss its priority among other potential capital projects or purchases. And if this is anticipated to take place in the next fiscal year, we would need to move forward to ensure that it is scheduled in both entities' budgets. She says that while there's currently a healthy fund balance, it is not an unlimited resource. She encourages the Rail Commission to develop a prioritized list of capital projects and purchases with this in mind. Story County is doing the same. She looks forward to collaborating in the near future to achieve the most benefit for both entities. And that's all I have today, unless there's any questions from myself or the other Story County staff.
Very good. Thank you so much. Are there questions or comments from the commission?
Hi, Michelle Schmitter for the record. How confident are you? I mean, I think it's a great idea that the neighboring owners will also sell because it's really small to be able to do all the things that you're thinking about.
Lisa Massell for the record. Our county manager has basically expressed that there are people that are interested. And again, we would want to make sure that this is going to work out. We wouldn't want to have, if you see that smaller parcel located there, if it was only that one and not the other or the other surrounding ones, would it be the most benefit for that area? So we would want to make sure that everything is consistent with the use, all located closely together, and do it all at one time if possible.
Other questions?
I do have a comment if it's allowed.
Yeah, please go ahead, Leah.
As you know, I'm sure, Virginia City Tourism Commission, namely me, we manage Gold Hill Depot, and I think this would be a wonderful quote unquote selling point for Gold Hill Depot because there'll be a lot more options for events or whatever that may go on there.
Very good. Thank you. Stephanie?
I was going to say, I think it can bring a lot of synergy or maybe, help attract people to that area. So I see it as a great opportunity for us to explore further. Coming from a real property background at the city, if we do have property that we aren't going to utilize, then, finding ways it can be disposed of for it to be utilized, I think is important. So, I'm curious to see all the title history and everything that comes up when we get to that point of this, but I think in concept, it's a fantastic idea.
Very good. Thank
I
you.
do have one more comment too.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I have plans soon to meet with Sherry to discuss our future budget. And obviously a question I have is what kind of funds we should potentially be thinking about putting aside for this.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I imagine there are probably ways that we can get into a ballpark without having the actual appraisal, at least to get something into the budget if that is a direction that the commission ends up going. I'm thinking about the timing here. Typically our preliminary budgets are due early April. If this is something that we want to agendize for action, then we're looking at our next meeting, which is towards the end of March. And so we need to do some preliminary work for sure prior to that so that it could be included if that was something that we wanted to do. I had just one question, and then I think if it's all right, I'll use my prerogative as chair to open it up for public comment, even though this is not an action item. I think it's appropriate, since we're kind of having an open discussion about it, that if there are people that have comment that would like to contribute their thoughts. In the past, we had some discussion about possibly coming up with an arrangement to cite a historic statue or sculpture on this site. We didn't make any sort of commitments in that regard, but I'm wondering if that was something that did come to fruition. Would that be compatible with some of the uses that you're considering for this?
Lisa Massell for the record. I think it would be, well, Virginia City is all about history. We want to educate people on the whole area. I think this would be a great place for a monument to educate people on what has happened in this local area. I feel Gold Hill doesn't have, there's a lot of history there, but I don't feel there's a lot of educational opportunities that are currently there to teach people about the history of the area. So I think this will help open it up for that, and who knows, there could be more than one monument.
Yeah, thank you. I've been on the record as saying Gold Hill is the Rodney Dangerfield of the Comstock. It can't get no respect. So, great. Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
Sarah Sturts for the record, grants manager for Story County. So do you guys know for sure that you have a plan of erecting that monument at this park? Because if so, as part of the conversion process, since this is done with the Park Service, we'll have to make sure we're letting them know, because we don't want them to see that this monument at a later time will be a loss of outdoor recreation, because we're trying to resolve that issue, that outdoor recreation loss. at Miners Park with this, so we don't want to create another recreation loss at this Gold Hill. So we'll just want to make sure that if we really want to do this monument, that that's in the documentation and that's communicated with the Park Service.
Understood. Thank you. Yeah, we've not made any sort of commitments. We had some preliminary exploration, and then kind of that exploration was put on hold, and so we don't have anything concrete at this point. But I could see us just putting a jungle gym, some bars on the monument, and then it's outdoor recreation, and then we're good, right? So
I think that we would just maybe qualify that educational component because we definitely want some interpretation. You know, the tracks are right there. So what was put before us before was a monument, but I think that we could tell that story in some interpretive panels, whether it be at this location and or at the depot, which is a great location for it. So if we just make sure if we do sell the parcels, that we're definitely getting some education.
great. Thank you. Are there any other members of the team from Story County or members of the public that would like to comment on this item? Go ahead, make your way on forward. Denny, we'll go with you first, and then Kim, if you be waiting in the wings, we'll go to you after that.
Denny French, thank you. My deal is, this is amazing. Anytime that we can put a piece of property into a great spot for the public's information, but I am concerned about access and such to that particular area. And it would be great if the parcels to to my immediate straightforward and then the one to the other side would be participating. You've got blue lines there that would use some explanation, but at this point, I really hope that you'll consider such, and I look forward to seeing the progress. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. And Kim, before you start, and I know you're familiar with this area as well, Denny, just to orient you, so of course you can see the highway along the front of these lots. Along the back of these lots is Telegraph Street, if I remember correctly. And so that is a public right-of-way that is accessible from the south, from the bottom, coming up. But certainly access is something that would need to be considered and maintained. Interestingly enough, as it sits right now, unless there are recorded easements, there's no direct access from the highway to the depot. And that, I think there's some value in establishing that in some way, shape, or form. Thank you. Go ahead.
Kim Fager, Gold Hill Historical Society. I have quite a bit of experience with this property because my group worked on it for 25 years to make sure the building stayed preserved. We'd put $350,000 worth of CCA grants in it and various other donations over the years. And of course, whenever you put in a sizable chunk of money in an nonprofit organization like that, you're always matching it with probably up to twice as much value in labor. When we got our hands on that place, we leased it from the county. They had basically neglected it for 46 years. It was literally on the verge of falling down. It was actually built in the 1870s from another building that was moved from Washoe Valley. And it was built as a temporary installation. The railroad figured that it would do until they managed to get, enough traffic and afford to change the structure. They never did. So it evolved to the point where it served them reasonably well until the railroad was abandoned and the track was torn out in 1940, and then it just sat. For a brief amount of time, it was used as a residence. The people who lived there rented it from the railroad. And finally, the railroad allowed the county to just take it. They offered it to them, actually. I think it was like for $1 or something, hoping that the government would have the resources or the interest in preserving it. They did not. So in the early 80s, some friends of mine and I looked at the situation, and we decided there was something that could be done with it. And we didn't want to see something like that, one of the earliest original buildings of the railroad left be lost. So we leased it, and everybody else was happy that somebody was going to do something with it. And like I said, we spent about 25 years putting blood, sweat, and tears and whatever grants we could come up with into it. In a situation like that, it's difficult to raise a structure or money for a structure like that in the beginning because it's just niche-y and it's obscure, and there wasn't even any railroad around it when we got started, and there wouldn't be for years. So our goal was actually to put it back to a functional railroad station. And if you explain that to people when there's not even any track near it, that's kind of hard to handle. But we managed to stay with it long enough. The track did eventually come. And we put a new roof on it. We restored the freight dock around the perimeter of the building. It needed a new foundation. It was built on basically stilts. That was taken care of. We put in new wiring. We put in a fire sprinkler system because, as you can imagine, that would be a death trap otherwise. And so that will contribute quite a bit to the structure's, future. But as the railroad operation evolved, some factors came together that conspired against what we were doing, and we eventually lost our lease to the building. So it's been 10 years since I've set foot on that property. And I have watched in that 10 years with dismay the roof starting to look shaggy, the paint starting to peel off. After what I personally have put into it and, the members of our group, it's tough to see what's been going on there. So I would highly encourage some better use of that. Before we were forced to leave, we'd actually had plans for a public restroom, and that would serve two purposes. It would be a nice rest stop for both train passengers and anybody else that needed it, and it wouldn't affect the historic structure of the building. I would, if I had any say, recommend that the county still go on with that plan for those reasons. As far as the upper lot in that picture, I remember when the private owners offered it up for sale, and I advocated to this commission that, in fact, the only public access was Telegraph Street, which you have to get onto down by the hotel, and that wouldn't be very practical, so they agreed to purchase that lot just to guarantee better access to the property. And so we've been able to use it on that basis. I don't know that it matters who owns it, and I'm not going to get into that, but it's there for that reason. So I wish you luck in that, and I would like to see just some attention paid to that structure that we put all of our effort into. That's about what I got for that.
Very good. Thank you very much. Is there any other public comment? Great. Well, thank you kindly. This is not an action item for us, but certainly it's something that we can talk about agendizing for a future meeting if that's something we want to do. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, which is for possible action. This is a discussion and possible action regarding a declaration of support for Assembly Bill 32 of the 83rd 2025 session of the Nevada Legislature concerning the Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the V&T Railway Act of 1993 as amended, directing the Nevada Legislature's Joint Interim Standing Committee on Growth and Infrastructure to conduct a study during the 2025-2026 interim, including a comprehensive evaluation of the V&T Commission that examines the current structure, duties, and powers of the V&T Commission and the long-term financial viability of the V&T Commission, and also makes a recommendation whether the V&T Commission should be reorganized, terminated, or directed to take action to improve its long-term viability. I can kick this off, or Stephanie, if you'd like to give kind of an overview of how we got here. What do you think? Very good. Thank you.
So thank you. And For the record, we did put copies of the actual bill language at the back of the room. If you didn't have a copy, we apologize, that wasn't in the packet. There is a summary. We kind of have considered it our one sheet that was in the agenda packet. And I think, the last couple meetings, we essentially have updated you on how this bill was initiated and where it has gone to. At first, we were looking for something that would be an actual bill this year with some determination. And then we decided it was probably more prudent to do a study so that we could look into some things such as reorganizing the structure of the commission or modifying the duties and powers. We're looking for some guidance on, exactly what our abilities are that can improve our long-term financial viability of the commission. And then the least, preferred option in any of this conversation, but something that I think it's important for the commission to know and understand is if at some point the commission is no longer viable and it terminates, what happens to all of our assets? What is our, what is our ability to dispose of them, and who do those funds go to? So this is really just a request for a study. So that we can manage, continue to manage the commission as the business enterprise that it is. What we are asking today is to actually, for the commission's support of this BDR. It was Carson City's BDR, Story County has supported it, but we have not made a formal action here at the commission.
Very good. Thank you so much. I will add just kind of some of the recent developments with it maybe. So in kind of an interesting twist of fate, it got its first committee hearing fairly early this session. That happened about a week and a half ago, something like that. And that was in front of the Assembly committee. So the committee that would in the interim basically take a look at this, and the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. And some good questions were asked. One of the questions that came forward was asking about the participation of the commission and the Story County and Carson City in that study. They said, they're open to considering convening a study committee, but they may not be able to allocate all the staff time to researching and bringing the details of what's going on. And so they ask if that's something that the commission would be willing or able to participate in. So, and so that's the only action that's been taken so far. It was introduced and referred to a committee. There was a committee hearing. No action was taken. The next step would be for them to either bring it back for a work session. I don't think that's likely because it's very straightforward what it's asking for. But it would need to be passed out of the committee, go back to the Assembly. If it passes out of the Assembly, then it'd be referred to a committee on the Senate side, have a similar hearing, be passed out of there. If it passes on both sides, then it goes to the governor for a signature. So that's kind of where things stand with it. So with that, I will open it up to the commission for questions or comments about this item. All right, hearing none. Is there any public comment on this item about AB 32? Yeah, Kim, come on up.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. As it is to me, a real asset for this community, keep for the historical aspects alone. The tourism aspects of it, I think the culture and arts people could maybe be pulled into this much more and perhaps lend some of their abilities and talents to the historical review or historical finding type matters and any investigative. And I just want to, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear this gentleman's name, but man, personally, what an asset. And if he'll stick with it after all the knocks and blocks he's had to put up with, I just would really appreciate any contribution he and others in the public that are historically knowledgeable to step up, because this commission is small. I mean, you all are busy. Each of you has other things that you're involved in, but I appreciate it, and I really hope that this will at least move on to maintaining the considerations that are already in place. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Kim Figert. I first became involved with the railroad in 1983. I was first involved with this Reconstruction project in 1991 when it basically was an embryo. So I have hands-on experience with it from then till just about now. I know how it got the way it is. There was a lot of expediency that caused some of the problems that you guys are now dealing with. And you're going to have to make some pretty hard decisions. As I did back then, and with a clear eye on the business end of it, still wholeheartedly support the operation. If for no other reason than I don't really want to see the legacy of all my work just go down the drain. Okay, so maybe that's my dog in the fight because there isn't really another one. But I've also been involved with Nevada Northern and their success from its genesis, and other tourist railroads. And I have a clear idea of the way they're working and what they're doing to be successful. And I understand perfectly how this one got to be exactly where it is. And I don't know there's enough time to get into too much discussion there, and I wouldn't volunteer to at this point. If anybody's interested in contacting me, I'm perfectly happy to discuss it with you individually. And if there's any reason you'd like to hear a little bit more about my experience, I'm perfectly happy to come back on the agenda at your next meeting.
Very good. Thank you so much. Additional public comment? All right, I'll bring it back to the board. Additional discussion from the board? Hearing none, I'd be happy to entertain a motion. There is a recommended motion that is provided, and there are kind of two different options there. The first is to provide a declaration of support in its current form. The second would be if there were some specific modifications that were desired, that would be something that we would want to note in a motion. Is there someone who'd like to make a motion, either of those directions?
Okay, I move to provide a declaration of support for AB 32 in its current form.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Michelle Schmitter, I second the motion.
Very good. Last call for further discussion on this item. All right. With that, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Very good. Motion passes unanimously. All right. All right. And with that, we will move on to item number 8. This is discussion and possible action regarding proposed calendar year 2025 train schedule. I'm going to turn it over to Sherry, but just by way of, and then certainly Candy, if you have input on this, we'd be happy to hear that. By way of explanation, as a general rule, we are required to set our schedule, our operating schedule for the next year and get that over to our contract operator by March 1st, if I remember correctly. And so that helps them plan for the year and also helps us then prepare our budget for the upcoming year. So Sherry, do you want to take us through this?
All right. Well, Candy and I worked long and hard on this schedule. and almost ended up exactly where we were. So,
Pretty much.
The basic schedule for the weekends are about the same as last year, the same amount of trains. We have tried to add events, at least one event per month. Starting in May, of course, Mother's Day and our kickoff weekend, and then June, Father's Day, and then June 21st, we would like to coordinate with the Fourth Ward School in Virginia City for their Kids Fair. We are kicking around some ideas of how to make it a family day. Of course, time sensitive, but we weren't able to exactly nail that down to be able to report right now. In July would kick off our Toast of the Canyon, a first of 3 we would have this year. In August, we would like to have another family weekend. September would be our second Toast of the Canyon. As well, September 7th is Grandparents' Day, which also coincides with camel races in Virginia City. Would like to promote that as a combination with Virginia City to grandparents or grandkids bring your grandparents up or something. October would be our final Toast of the Canyon, and we're planning on a beautiful fall ride with fall colors in the canyon. And of course, the Mark Twain days, the Mark Twain train would be the other evening train. Is there any questions? The schedule I'm showing you right now is, the prices are as they were last year, and I believe how they have been the past couple of seasons.
And also, we should add that we did go over our dream schedule with Tom, and this is Tom's dream schedule, just so
Okay.
you know that.
Yes.
And that was Candy, for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, Candy Duncan. Yes.
Michelle Schmidt for the record. Did we discuss lowering by $10, having a discount ticket? Is that reflected here at our workshop?
No, on our next item.
So our next
we
agenda item, we'll
discuss
talk about
pricing.
pricing.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. So they're kind of interrelated, and we'll see where the conversation goes. If it becomes clear that we need to discuss the two together, we may open up 9 as well, and kind of, if that's all right, Mihaela, for us to consider 8 and 9 together, and then separate motions coming out of that. Very good.
I did just have one question, and we really didn't talk about this at the workshop, but has there been any increase to Tom's prices? Because isn't that something we're looking at annually now?
No, Tom's prices, I believe, go through 2027.
Okay,
Yes,
so there's no changes there.
correct.
Okay.
Great, thank you. So,
Can I just ask one quick question?
yeah, please go ahead, Leah.
You did say, I'm sorry, it cut out. That's the joy of not being there in person. You did say that this also talks about Mark Twain days, correct?
Yes, in October.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Leah, I actually had a question for you. I just wanted to, and then if it's all right, we'll kind of shift gears and go through the rest of kind of what's on here, because at this point, we kind of need to talk about Polar a little bit, and we need to talk a little bit about the beginning of the next season, even though we'll have an opportunity to change that. But before we make that switch, Leah, I wanted to confirm the VCTC has added a potentially big event, and I think that's October 11th. Does that sound right?
Yes, we are bringing Red Run back. We're excited to announce, so yay. But yes, that is on October 11th. Mark Twain Days is the week after.
Very good. Yeah, and I see that reflected. Mark Twain train possibly on Friday the 17th. So Red Run is a zombie run. It's and it happened for about 6 years before they shut it down, but they're bringing it back. It was one of their most successful runs. Basically, you come as the living or the living dead, and you wear flags like flag football flags, and the zombies try to pull your flags while you run around town. But there's really a historical element as well, and it's a big party, and we probably just should consider the implications of running trains into the middle of that. They change up kind of they divide it up into it's like a 5K kind of, but they have it in different stages, and they move those around town. It often goes down into Gold Hill and back up. So that's something that has not been on the calendar that is back now. Also, I'm thinking it's probably good for us to have some discussion around the camel races. One of the things that we had talked about trying to do in the past was to coordinate the time frames to coincide with one of the camel race shows. And I'm just wondering if maybe, Sherry, if you can provide a little context around how you see, if we do a grandparents' day on that weekend, how we can coordinate if we are trying to make it possible to ride the train to the camel races. I think when we looked at it, we thought the afternoon show made the most sense because you'd have to have a pretty early departure time to get to the morning show on the Saturday at least,
Right.
or maybe just on Sunday. But anyway, just thoughts, and maybe before you do that, we'll excuse Commissioner Schmitter. Thanks so much for being here. All right, thoughts on what we can do to make sure that we make the logistics work there on Camel Race weekend?
Candy and I did discuss that, and you're right, the 2 p.m., we would have a little bit more latitude. Of course, it's coordinating with Tom if we can bring the train back a little bit later. The Sunday is actually the Grandparents' Day at noon, and that should fall right within. I do need to talk to VCTC because I couldn't remember, frankly, how long the actual camel race show lasted. So, but definitely do want to keep that in mind.
We are happy. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
We're happy to work with this commission for all of that. My concern that comes up right away is that the camel races we are reaching the point now where they're so popular that we do reach a sellout point fairly early. So I think that we would just have to make sure that we maintain communication between the two or work together somehow to make sure that we're not overselling or overstating that, yes, you can get on the train and go to the camel races, but if they walk up to get a ticket and they're sold out, there's going to be a lot of disappointment.
Understood. And it seems that maybe in this case, an appropriate way to approach it would be kind of the reverse of what normally happens, which would be to approach camel race attendees and say, hey, if you don't want to fight parking, here's an opportunity. So we're fishing in a warm market, so to speak, as opposed to pitching it to potential train riders as an add-on to a trip that they're making up to town. Great, thank you.
Yeah, and like I said, we are happy to work with the commission with our marketing team. We can put out some social media posts or something ahead of time. I don't foresee it being a big issue. I just wanted to put that out there that that's something that I would be concerned about. But yeah, we can definitely put some verbiage out that says, hey, X, Y, or Z is an option instead of just X. So
Great, thank you. Further thoughts or comments? I wanted to ask the family day type activities. Are we envisioning those, just to make sure I understand it correctly? We're envisioning those as special themes to regular daytime trains as opposed to special evening trains. As what's being proposed here, the only evening trains are the Toast of the Canyon and potentially that special Mark Twain Days train. Is that what I understand?
Correct.
Okay. Is that in line with kind of I know we had some discussion about this at our retreat, about splitting some of the activities between the more adult related activities and the more family related activities. Do we feel like that adequately captures that feeling or that
Can I comment on that?
Yes, please.
Yes, I think that I haven't approached Nora with the Fourth Ward School about any of this yet because it was just a preliminary discussion we had at the retreat. However, I know that us combining with her efforts for that would really make her happy, and I think that this would be the perfect way to do it. So obviously, more discussion will have to come on how we're going to make that work, but I think just the excitement for it will be there.
Okay. Very good. And if there's nothing else specific to discuss on this, and maybe actually before we move on to the other sections, I'll just open it up for public comment. Is there public comment or other staff contractors that want to comment on anything as far as the regular season schedule for this upcoming season? All right. So let's just put a pin in this part of it if we can, and just have a brief discussion on what we're thinking as far as any change. I don't know if we have to go through all the details on Polar or what we're doing the year after, but maybe if there are any notable changes being proposed, or just kind of general parameters on that.
The way, Sherry Bailey, just the way the calendar runs, we do end up with one extra day in Polar. We'll run 26 days instead of 25. And just sticking with the traditional schedule. When we get to item 9, there have not been any changes to the pricing of Polar. It's, I think, something that we should discuss. But
Very good. Thank you. All right. Any board comment or discussion on the proposed Polar schedule? And certainly this is something that if something comes up, we can make adjustments as we get closer. So it's not necessarily, it's good for planning purposes, but not necessarily something that we need to lock in at this moment permanently. Great. And then anything of note about the proposed schedule for starting into the next year? And just for those who may not be aware, the reason that we discuss that is because our next regular season starts in this coming fiscal year. And so from a planning perspective, it's helpful for us to have an idea of what's going to happen in those first couple of months.
Carla Wilson, Production Director for Polar Express. I just want to tag on to the additional day. My contract amendment only covered 25 days. So by adding that 26th day, I will have costs that were not originally figured into my contract. I do have a document here with me that I can leave for another agenda item at a future meeting that explains the coverage of costs that would be added for that additional day.
Very good. Thank you, Carla. Great. Sherry or Candy, anything to add about next year? It's pretty straightforward. Starting Mother's Day, working through. All right. Great. I'll open it back up to the board one more time for any questions or comments about the proposed schedule. Great. And then again, public comment. Any last public comment as far as the schedule goes? Stephanie and Lee, I'm going to turn to you. Do we want to maybe leave this item open and then start talking about move into item 9 and some discussion on pricing before we finalize this schedule with a motion? Is that something that would help us to get the big picture, so to speak, or should we wrap this one up and then go on to pricing?
If we can leave it open, I think that would be fine.
Yeah, at least as long as it's clear on the record. And Tamar, do you have an issue with that? If not, the discussion goes into the next one. Yeah.
Perfect.
Very good.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to table item 8 for now and open up item number 9, which is a discussion regarding ticket pricing for general season and special event trains, including authorization for one V&T Commission member to finalize the ticket prices based on that discussion. Sherry, do you want to take us through your thoughts on this?
yes, I'm sorry, I'm having technical difficulties.
All good.
All right. So again, working with Candy on the pricing and what we thought it would work. And of course, the main goal is to increase ridership. Increasing our revenue is great, but we want to increase the ridership more importantly. So to start off with, in manipulating the numbers, we raised the overall price of tickets $5. So for steam, from 55 to 60, and diesel 50 to 55. Now, having said that, I'm sorry, the child ticket would go from $40 to $45 per person. Now, having said that, we did increase the discount for seniors and vets by $5, and it was it was a discount of $2 or $3 previously. And then on Sundays, which the last set of columns illustrates, is to have a Sunday 10% off. Every Sunday, it would be more of a rider appreciation. Rider appreciation days, 10% off across the board, hoping to fill those trains. And the reason we're still considering the locals discount, but it just seems cumbersome for the depot that Candy or whoever's running the ticketing, we're going to check their IDs, every person's ID. That just seemed cumbersome. So that's why we changed it to ridership appreciation on Sundays.
Candy Duncan, and for the record, and the reason that we did that is the more we discussed it, the more we realized if we're going to give a discount to veterans and a discount to locals, then is somebody going to want to double up on, and just really, because then it would take a lot more person-to-person discussion with ticket purchasers than allowing them to be able to buy their tickets online. And so it just seemed like just a straight 10% rider appreciation day on Sundays might make better sense than trying to do all those different kinds of discounts.
Great. Thank you so much. Comments or questions from the commission?
I think that actually that's a great idea. I think it still achieves what we were looking for, right? An opportunity for people that are local to get a discount. It also expands that a little bit.
Right.
And with Sunday being our day where we need to fill a little more, I think that makes good sense. So I'm comfortable with that.
Very good. Leah, do you have any comments or questions? No, it's quite all right. Feel free to chime in at your if you do. I had a question about so I don't, I should have had it in front of me, our ridership numbers for this past year. Just looking at the Sunday discount. So would Mother's Day be exempt from that discount?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I know there were one or two other weekends where we had kind of an inversion where the Sunday was more popular than the Saturday, and I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason to that particularly. I guess I don't know if Father's Day is a consideration, or is the thought to just have that follow the discount pattern as well?
I don't. Candy Duncan, do we charge extra on Father's Day?
We don't, but we do.
should.
We do give more.
Yeah, we should charge the same for the Father's Day train as the Mother's Day train, would be my thought. And that it should not be discounted those 2 weekends, because we
Okay.
do a lot more for them.
Okay, very good. And then kind of going along with that, in your discussions with Fair Harbor, is the idea that senior and vet discounts would then stack with the 10%? So it would be 10% off of regular or senior vet, or is it either or when it comes to those situations on a regular Sunday?
Well, we could make it be whatever we want it to be.
Okay.
And so we can, we could give it a, like, local 10 or, and just a code name for the discount. Or we could say that you get your veterans discount plus 10% off. I mean, that really is up to us how we might want to handle that. I'm not really, that's what makes it complicated. Trying to
Understood.
figure out how to do all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there thoughts from the commission on it seems like the easiest way to do, I mean, I guess there are two different ways you can approach that, and one is pricing on those specific days, setting it at a particular level, and then everything gets a 10% discount, or leaving the pricing what it normally is, and then 10% on top of that with a promo code or whatever that ends up being. Any thoughts on stacking discounts? To me, it kind of seems that's the way we should go. We shouldn't change our structure and it should just be 10% off of everything. But if what we're looking to do is boost ridership, but I'd be curious to hear what the other commissioners have to say about that.
I agree. I think it should be 10% off whatever the regularly ticketed price would have been. So
Okay.
if they would have qualified for senior, then they'd get 10% off of that. If they were child, they'd, get
It makes it
10% off of
much
that.
easier that way.
So I think that makes sense, and hopefully that
Yes.
does make it easier.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other weekends like Memorial Weekend, and I think even the camel races that, are those ones that we want? They're Sundays
Mhm.
that we want a discount, or did we have good ridership? And so, maybe the caveat is for, non-special or holiday Sundays, we give
Yeah, I
that
agree.
discount. And then I'm assuming, we didn't say it, but I'm pretty certain none of that applies to Polar. If Sunday's
Right,
Polar's
none of it,
full
no.
price. So, just to clarify that. So I guess those are my thoughts is that if we had holiday weekends that we had good ridership, then I would say those we probably don't give the discounts on, because we want to fill in the other ones, right?
Mhm,
And if somebody's
exactly.
looking for the discount, I guess that's where I'd be looking. And I think you're probably going to talk through this, but I'm just curious where that puts us, as far as overall increase in revenue if we increase the prices as you have proposed.
Yes.
And I did want to note that the schedule here is only the regular season prices, not for any of the events, even though there are numbers like for the Toast of the Canyon, that's sort of a placeholder. I would like the opportunity to sort of backtrack and make sure that we're charging a fair price for those days.
Very good. Yeah, I actually just pulled up last year's ridership because I wanted to refer back and see. It looks like the only Sundays that overperformed were Father's Day, but that was 80% ridership. Assuming I have the right weekend. Yeah, maybe I don't. So June 15th and 16th is a Saturday, Sunday. We had 77% on Saturday and 80% on Sunday. The next weekend, which is the 22nd, 23rd, I'm not sure which of those would be Father's Day. It was 80% on Saturday, 67% on Sunday. So maybe some more conversation about Father's Day because we're not maxing it out. And my concern is I'm not advocating for discounting it, but I don't know if we raise prices if that will drop our ridership there because it doesn't look to be as much of a tradition as Mother's Day. We had a fairly strong Sunday in the middle of July 21st. The Saturday of that weekend was 83% and the Sunday was 79%. And then the very last day of the season ran 91%. And so maybe we consider not discounting on that day, on the last day of the season, because it typically performs strong anyway.
Okay.
Is that acceptable to the rest of the commission? We look at maybe not discounting on Father's Day, but and I will point out that part of this item was is to authorize one commission member to finalize a few of these things. I think the idea is to get a general outline in place, get pricing pretty much set, but as Sherry mentioned, Toast of the Canyon, it needs a little bit more review to make sure that we're priced appropriately there, covering our costs, able to provide a nice experience, and then maybe some of the fine tuning on some of these. And so if the commission's okay with authorizing Dave, since he's not here, to do that work, because that's how it goes. Just kidding. To authorizing one of us to continue to work to just finalize those. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I just had one thought that I wanted to bring up, because I did see in the staff report where it says our potential gross revenue increases from 11,359 to 28,399. I mean, I know our goal is to increase ridership. I think, I mean, it still does worry me a little bit. I know when I was, raising children at home, for 4 of us to go and get on the train on a weekend and go up and spend more money in Story County, because that's what you do. That's, you want to go up there for those
Thank you
events.
very much,
Yes. But it just, I mean, for a lot of families, that's not affordable. So it just worries me a little bit. I know we're not raising it a whole lot, but we're also not getting a whole lot of additional revenue from it. So I think there just needs to be a balance. And I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if we don't increase the children's rates, maybe that's a way to do it, and we just increase adults. But I just would be a little concerned that we might be trading one thing for another. We increase our prices and then we have less ridership. Yeah. So just a thought. We could do that.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had really hoped, and maybe this hits home because I have a fairly large family myself, but I had hoped that there was a way that we could really kind of cap or distinctly discount, when it is a large, lots of kids, so on and so forth. Do we notionally have an idea of how our ticket sales break down between adults and kids? The 50-50, 70-30, kind of a rough idea of how many are adult tickets versus how many are kids tickets?
Do we? I can tell you just from observation that we don't really have that many kids. Yeah, it seems like the short line is really more meant for families with lots of little kids because it's quicker and less money. Our children usually on the long line are older kids, pre-teenagers or, preschool, tweens, is that what we call them? I think is more that age group. It's predominantly older adults. Yeah. But we do have some kids, but.
Well, I was going to say, if that's the situation, I think it probably then doesn't hurt our revenue numbers if we do keep the kids' price lower.
No, probably wouldn't.
Right?
Yeah.
Knowing that it may not be as natural a fit for younger children, and people are kind of self-selecting based on the attention span and what they think. But again, until our trains are running at 100%, there's no opportunity cost to that, right? I mean, to get it, if that's the factor in getting more people to ride, potentially it's a good idea.
And I think our child rate is what, 15, up to age 15? I think. Yeah. So.
For 40.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. We'll go ahead and open up to public comment. Is there anyone who'd like to comment on this discussion about ticket pricing for general season and special event trains on the upcoming season?
Thank you very much. Denny French. One of the considerations on prices as far as children and having a family, just getting there is a consideration. Just getting up to the train station is a consideration. And if there were a way to have a tram that would be included that could leave from Carson City to get you up to the train, that might be encouraging to those of us that don't necessarily make that trip other than once a month up to the dump because it's required. And it's beautiful up there, but I don't also then go by the train and then utilize the train to go up to Virginia City. But that transit issue is something that we're talking about. But with everything as precarious as it is, as far as grants, state and federal, especially federal right now, people are taking chainsaws to brain surgeries, and everything's sort of speculative. But I would like to have that as a consideration when things start to get more plumb or at least a little bit thicker as far as incomes and such, because that's a deterrent for me, is to try to get my butt up there and then to get back. So, but as far as fares, again, that's a little bit for myself, precariously, not part of my to get to list. But thank you for the considerations and that transport, if it were able and if you're still intact, that would be a consideration. Thank you.
If I may just comment on Denny's comment, that is actually something that is in the city's strategic plan, to consider a trolley that would take people from downtown to some of the outlying amenities such as the V&T Railway and also Nevada State Prison Museum. We haven't found a way to make it work yet, make it feasible, but it is something that is in our 5-year strategic plan. So your thought is a good one.
Thank you very much. I know I've brought up the transit situation at the meetings, and they're still stuck with funding and then ridership and such, so thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'll add as well, Denny, it's a great point. We, in an attempt to take steps in that direction, maybe not solve it completely, but this year we have budgeted money for the acquisition of a shuttle, a small shuttle. We don't have anyone to drive it. We don't have employees. We don't have anything, but we have budgeted for that. And so we see that as potentially a step towards opening up opportunities, and potentially, certainly as, you know, as Carson City looks at that, it's a conversation that the commission would definitely want to be a part of, because I think it opens up an avenue that's not there right now. So absolutely great. Any other public comment? All right. So I don't think anything came up in that discussion that necessarily would be a need for us to change our approach to the scheduling. Is that a fair statement? So what I'll do at this point then is pick item 8 up back off the table, and so we can take these in order. And I would be happy to accept a motion on item 8. I'm trying to remember if there were specific things that we talked about that would need to be reflected in that motion, that were changes from what was presented in the proposed schedule. Sherry, do you have any notes on anything for the regular season schedule? I know we talked about camel races, making sure that kind of works scheduling wise, but I don't think we were proposing changing anything from what was presented.
Not for the regular season. We will need to address Carla's contract for Polar, but I don't know if that needs to be a part of.
No, that'd be
this.
separate. I mean, yes, we need to address it, but no, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be part of this.
We'll get to that later.
We don't want to lose her.
I agree.
Very good. All right. Well then, sorry, let me get through to, so I have it in front of me. Um, Then is there a motion on item number 8, which has to do with our proposed calendar year schedule?
Yes, I move to approve the 2025 train schedule as proposed.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Leah. We have a motion from Stephanie, a second from Leah. Any further discussion from the commission? Any further thoughts from the public? Very good. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, thank you. Motion passes unanimously. And then we'll go back to 9 for a motion. I'll be happy to entertain a motion. We did have some very specific things that we talked about here. I believe we talked about not increasing the child price. We clarified that the 10% discount on Sundays would be 10% of whatever the pricing would be otherwise. So it's not an either or, but it would stack on top of any other discounts that we typically offer. And we talked about exempting Father's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day, and our last
weekend.
running day from the Sunday discounts.
And other events and holidays.
Yeah.
TBD.
Okay. And then as part of that motion, I think the request is to authorize, or was that supposed to be on the calendar stuff? Authorize someone to finalize. See, now I'm getting lost in everything.
Yes, it's on item 9.
On item 9.
Authorize one B&T commission member to finalize the ticket prices based on the discussion.
Yeah, you up for it? Give it a shot. Thanks, Stephanie.
I move to authorize our distinguished Chair Peterson to finalize the ticket prices based on our discussion on the record to include not increasing the price of the children's or the child ticket, a 10% discount based on existing applicable ticket pricing, and consideration of no discount on Sundays, including holidays or special events such as Mother's Day, Father's Day, and the last day of the season.
Very good. And just a point of clarification, when you say existing ticket pricing, that's proposed new ticket pricing?
Yes, correct.
Very good. Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you kindly. Is that clear enough? Is that a good enough motion? All right. No, quite all right. Quite all right. Very good. With that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That wasn't me. I just had you on mute.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it sounded like someone else. That was strange. All right. Apparently we're sharing a party line with another meeting. Very good. So we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone, for your input on that. It will allow us to run another season,
Okay.
which is a good thing. At this point, we'll move on to agenda item number 10, which is for discussion only. We'll move into our monthly non-action items, and we'll start that with an executive assistant update from Sherry Bailey.
Oh boy, I feel like I took,
Excuse me 1 second. Can I just say one thing? I actually have to jump off. Is there anything else that we need to vote on? Is that even possible for me to be able to leave?
No,
No more.
we lose quorum, and the only
What
motion that's
happened?
acceptable is to adjourn, but I don't know if that forces us not to take discussion items immediately.
Or I can just, I'll still be on here. I just have something else that is going to require my attention here, but I can still hear you.
Okay,
Excuse me.
perfect. Yeah, no, that's quite all right. We're done with the action items. Thank you kindly.
Okay. If you need me, just holler real loud.
Thank you. Thank you kindly. All right, Sherry.
Okay, so the update, I feel like I hijacked the whole meeting with the pricing and the scheduling. That's been my tasks over the past month. I will be working on and have been working on the budget, and we'll be getting together with Leah this week, and then so that we can get it over to the comptroller hopefully next week for her review. So it's pretty short and sweet.
Very good. Thank you kindly. Any questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to an operations train report from the Virginia Truckee Railroad Company. Ms. Candy Duncan.
Candy Duncan, Virginia Truckee Railroad. I know that Tom has been working on track, on equipment, getting ready for the new season coming up. He did a murder mystery and a country western music show for Valentine's Day weekend up in Virginia City. It was very successful. All 3 trains almost sold out, so that was really fun. And I know that we've talked to him and got great input from him as far as putting the schedule together. I think we did end up adding a few more steam trains than usual, so we don't have quite as many diesels, which is good because that's what our public wanted. And then also I will, as soon as we've got the prices nailed down and everything solidified, I'll go ahead and load all that in to Fair Harbor. So I think that we have a target date of, do we have a target date of when you want them to go on sale? That would be a question. Did we decide that?
We were going to stick with what we had last year.
Last year.
Mid-March.
Mid-March. So we'll make sure
Is
they go
our
on sale
target.
by then. Yeah.
Very good.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Given that time frame, I'm just thinking about it and thinking, depending on Dave's availability, I'm happy to make myself available for some of the conversations, if needs be, if he's not available for any of those final wrap up things. And then we can have him sign off on it officially, since he's the one authorized to do it. But certainly don't want you to feel like you have to wait until he's available if you have questions or things that need to be discussed. So great. And all right, questions, comments about that report? Very good. We'll move on to item C, which is just to notice our upcoming meeting. And that will be our next regular commission meeting will be on Wednesday, March 26th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Same bad time, same bad channel. That's Wednesday, March 26th at 9 a.m. here at the Bob Kroll Boardroom and online, God willing. All right. With that, we'll move on to item number 11, which is commissioner comments or announcements and requests for information. No action will be taken and no discussion among the members or with staff will take place during this item on the agenda. Stephanie, do you have any announcements or comments that you'd like to make?
I just want to say thank you again for the retreat. I think that was a very productive day. We covered a lot of stuff. I was very pleasantly surprised we made it through that very full agenda, but it was great. So thank you for all your efforts, and then also your efforts on our scheduling and our pricing. So thank you.
Very good. I will just pause for a moment in case Leah does want to weigh in, but no pressure. So if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine as well.
I feel so much pressure. Thank you so much. I'm done with what I was doing, so I'm good. I also want to second that the retreats are always great. I think we come up with some of the best ideas there. I'm really excited. Just from the VCTC standpoint, I just want to say I'm really excited that we are bringing Mark Twain Days back. I'm not thrilled with the dates that we're doing it, but I think it's going to end up really becoming a great thing for our Virginia City's Hauntober whole situation. So I think we're going to have a great time with that. And I'm thankful for the commission and Tom and everyone for allowing the train to run for that. So.
Very good. Thank you kindly. I did not have any comments, announcements, or requests for information. So we will move on to item number 12, which is the second and final time for general public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on any matter that is not specifically included in the agenda as an action item. No action will be taken on matters raised under this item of the agenda. Do we have additional public comment?
Denny French, Carson City. Observation first, thank you very much for your dedication. Next, it's just a little hard to catch everyone's names when they start and talk and such for myself as they are speaking forward and some of the microphone feeds aren't coming to me. But also, tourism is important to this state. And I just don't hear enough about you at their tourist meetings. So I hope that my bringing it up and saying, hey, you know, but I don't know what your relationship with them is. I could be missing some of the more deals involved, but yeah, y'all working together will I'm sure help the community like myself learn more and get more acquainted with things. And it's important to me. This is something I could budget towards and have as a real nice event for myself, and it would be historical. Plus, it would be supporting a great cause. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Further public comment? Seeing none, we will move to item 13, which is to adjourn the meeting. The time is 10:25. Thank you, everyone, for your patience with us today.